everyone, I'm Nettie Kay. Welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to be painting a little still life with translucent glass. Now, translucent meaning light can go through it, but you can't really see a lot of things. It's not like a pane of glass where you can see everything through it. You're going to just see kind of a little bit of what goes through it. And so I've got this beautiful dark teal pitcher. This is a crackle glass. I like that. I don't think I'm going to be able to paint all the detail on the crackle glass today, but you know, you might want to try it sometime. And then I'm going to put this behind it. And so you can see I've got the medicinal bottle here from about 100 years ago. And then I have the pitcher in front, and then I'll put a little, just a contrasting little orange in front of it. I've done one over here. You can see this is my little study over here where I've put actually some little orange slices and an orange and the orange peel. That's really cool, but that takes a lot of time, and maybe we'll do an orange peel later. Not in this particular video, but at another time. Perhaps you'd like to learn that. Let me know, okay? Let me know. All right, I'm going to go set this up, and then we'll get going. I'm going to actually try to hold this palette a little bit for you today because I know it frustrates the tar out of some of you guys when I don't show you what I'm doing on my palette. And we're still trying to get a new camera. We're working really hard at that, and so if you guys keep watching, my gosh, maybe we'll be able to afford one someday. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. So anyway, on my palette, I have a little bit of dioxazine purple. I have a little bit of, let's see, what is this one? Viridian, which is a bluish green, greenish blue. And I have some phthalo turquoise. I have some cobalt teal. I have a wonderful color called, let's see, what is that called? That is called phthalo green. Okay, phthalo green, which is wonderful for a lot of glass has got green in it, everybody, you know. All right. And then I have some medium, which is my Neo Megel, a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of cadmium yellow medium. I have some cadmium red, transparent orange, and a little bit of cadmium orange right there. Okay. So now I'm going to, I'm just going to lean this up here. Hopefully you can see this a little bit when we need to. We're going to start with this back bottle, and so the back bottle I'm going to, it's a lighter color, so I'm going to begin with a little bit of white, and I'm going to add some medium because this is really, really stiff white that I've got going on here. And so, and it has a tinge of maybe a little bit of that wonderful, this is the, what is this, phthalo green, okay, so you see how it's kind of a mint color, but it's still a little too blue, so now I'm going to solve my problem by adding a little bit of yellow, and now I'm seeing it's too intense, so now I'll add a little more white, and I'm going to just keep moving that across, and I'm realizing now it feels too yellow, so I'm going to keep adding a little bit. This time I'm going to add a little bit of phthalo teal. I'm going to end up covering my whole palette with this paint if I'm not careful, and then I'm going to roll that off my brush. I'll start out with the top part of the glass. Now my light is coming from my right side, and so I'm going to now come up here, and I've just sketched this in with a little bit of purple, so you know we're gonna have to overcome that a little bit, but purple with green seems to work really well in a lot of ways when it comes to some of our colors when it comes to glass. So now I'm going to kind of re-emphasize this a little bit, and we'll come down with our brush. I've got this bottle at a slight angle, and so you can see that's a little bit of an angle right there. And I'm going to add this cobalt teal a little bit more. You know, you just set it down and you try it out, and you just see if it works, and then you make a correction. You know that common phrase that a painting is a record of a series of corrections. Usually you'll put something down and then you correct it with the second stroke. Now I know that the glass on the bottom is going to be darker because it's away from the light, and it's also going to be thick, and so I'm going to add just a slightly darker tone right here, and then I'm going to go back in. I've got, this is again the what is it, Viridian, that I'm kind of dipping into right here, and I'm going to just make sure that with a square bottle, the sides, regardless of what's going on at the angle, the square bottle is always going to have the lines moving in a vertical up and down motion, regardless of what's going on with the angle of the bottle, okay? You don't change these angles don't go this way unless they've fallen over. If you've painted a bottle that's fallen over, that's a completely different thing. So now I've got a little bit of a darker tone in the center, like right before the edge of the jar there. And then I've got a darker as it comes down here. So it's a little round on the inside. Okay, now the inside of this glass right here is lighter. And so now I kind of almost have it with my the background shining through, but I want to really get back up into something a little bit lighter. So I've got what's ever on my brush, and then I'm going to add again another little bit of, actually I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre with that, see what happens with that. And so now I'm going to come in here, and it's going to help with this contrast between this jar and that jar. So now I'm going to come in like this, and we'll put that beautiful lighter kind of value into the middle part of the jar where the light is shining through. Okay, kind of like that. And I want to get just a little bit thinner so that it doesn't take 5 years to dry. Yeah, that would just do it. So we'll put that down like that, and I see it sort of comes out a little bit over here, like that. The main thing when you're doing glass, everybody, there's a lot of different ways of approaching it, but you want to always kind of, you're just going to have to do a lot of observing. And so the first part is to just take a look and say, all right, what's the shape? What's the outside shape of the glass? And then what am I really seeing? Ask yourself, what am I really looking at? What is that color really? You know, what is that? And you just keep asking yourself good questions. What am I really looking at? Now here's a weird thing I'm going to do. I'm going to add a little bit of purple, a little bit of that dioxazine purple. I'm getting way too much on my brush. Very, very strong. And then I'm going to create this shadow up into this part of the bottle. A little dioxazine purple and kind of a little bit of that teal. Okay, ooh, that's it. All right, so I'm going to put that in where I see a bit of a shadow. And it's not a heavy-duty shadow, but it's a shadow nonetheless. And then we have a little bit of a darker shadow as it comes down here into the glass. So it's just observation, everybody. Just look, 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 and see what you see, and try to figure it out, all right? And we'll just kind of add that in. It's darker at the top. Ask yourself questions. Is it lighter? Is it darker? Is it warmer? Is it cooler? Is it, you know, this has got a little bit more of that purplish color right in there. Ooh, I can see that. Takes a while to look. You just keep looking and you just keep trying to figure it out. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to set that heavy palette down for a second. And now I'm going to wipe my brush off, and I'm going to try to find some even lighter values so that you can really, really see that. This time I'm just grabbing some white, and I want just a tiny bit of cadmium yellow. Okay, now here's this light yellow color that I'm going to lay down right here, and we're just going to work that across like that. Then it'll reflect a little bit over onto that side. There we go. And then I wipe off my brush because it's picking up some color underneath it, and I don't want that to be too contaminated. I'm working on a canvas that has got a light coat of gray wet paint, and so that is a little bit different for me right now. Okay, so now when the light hits, here's the big deal. All right, the light hits on the apex, or where it sticks out the most, right here at this shoulder. Okay, so the light hits right here. I'm going to stick a highlight right there. Ooh, yeah. And it hits that on the outside surface. It comes through and it goes through the glass, and then with a slightly less amount of highlight or light, the light will hit on the inside of the glass on the other side. And that is what makes it really look like it's transparent a little bit, okay? And then the glass itself has got that dark edge to it right there, and then it kind of comes up. Let's put this in a little bit darker there, and then we'll put a little bit there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the inside of this glass right here. So I'm just going to put a little bit there. So it hits there and it shines. It doesn't come all the way out right now. It hits on the inside part of that glass right there. And then guess what? It's going to reflect out into the shadow right there. Now, it's an odd contrast. I've got a little bit of the cobalt violet with the teal. And we're going to put just a little bit of that underneath to emphasize the bottom. So it's a violet teal that goes underneath the bottom of the jar, and then right here as well, as we're trying to emphasize that shape right there. Okay, got that? All right. I know it's a little bit complicated, but you'll get this. Highlight, and then it shines on the inside of the glass, and then, you know, that's it. Okay, now you don't put highlights all over the place. You put a highlight in one spot per surface. Okay, so I'm going to need one up here. Let's put one up here. So I'm going to put one, I've got one right here, and then I'm going to put one on right here on the edge of that. I've got another surface right there, and then I'm going to drag this highlight. I'm going to turn my brush slightly sideways, and then we're going to go right here, and it kind of comes down the middle like this. And then of course it's going to reflect inside the glass again. We're going to come in on this part. I'm seeing that reflecting on the inside edge, but it's not as bright as the highlight, okay? Not as bright as the highlight, and then I'm going to do that right about here. This part of the glass is lighter because there's only one layer of glass. We see two layers of glass through the bottle, and then as the top of the ellipse has only got one layer of glass because that's all we can see. Okay, so that's our little first bottle. Before I get too far along, I'm going to grab a little more of that teal with the purple, and I'm going to put in a slight shadow around that like this. And I do want to, again, have a little bit of that green kind of shining through. It's just a fun way of making it look kind of cool. And then I'm gonna, okay, don't do that at home. And then I'm gonna just kind of wipe out a little bit of that. It's not a solid shadow, is what I'm saying. It's got a little bit of glass reflecting and light reflecting onto the surface beside it. Okay, now let's move on to this other one. Woohoo, yeah. All right, now on this one I'm going to take a little bit of that phthalo turquoise, and then I have this teal that I'll be working with. And so I'm going to put that a lighter version of the color of the thing on the back side, because again I'm only seeing one layer of glass right there. And then I'm going to kind of hop over the reflection of the whatever that is, the bottle behind. And then I'll put a little bit of that here, a little bit of that here. And then I want to go in with the cobalt teal. And we'll put in some of that color. Ooh, that's nice. I'm going to put some of that color in with my medium because I want it to be nice and thin and eventually nice and shiny. That'll be good. So I'm going to put kind of this middle tone in here of the teal, and I think I'll put that into the handle. There we go. Middle tone into the handle, and where else do I see that? Kind of up over here a little bit. And then I have to decide, where are all the darks and what are they doing? Okay, so I'm going to put a dark value. I'm going to put actually some of the viridian and the dark teal and dark turquoise, whatever dark values I have down here. And I'm going to come down here like this, and we're going to put the dark down at the bottom because that's very much in shadow, and it's also extremely thick glass. And so now I have this thick glass over here. We're going to pull that in. I'm going to pull the contour of the glass right there. It's nice and thick. When I think about where the light is coming from, I also want to remember that there is a nice dark color around the edge of the glass there. It's just one of those things. And so the same thing as we kind of come up here. And then remember, it's a round vase. You don't put straight lines across. There are no straight lines on things that are round. Okay, even if I had some water in this vase, I would go and I would do it like this. Okay, I would put put it in a little jump rope. We don't put straight lines across. That's one of the main mistakes that happens. Adults, kids, I don't care who you are, that happens all the time. So here's a little dark glass right here. And this one, it would take a lot of gazing into the crystal ball, as we say, in order to see all of the different nuances that are happening on here. But you can kind of see, if I just give it a nice dark line around the outside to start with, that works really well. And then I'll work my way in. Let's see, this looks really dark right here for some reason. I don't know why. And then we'll just keep working our way around. And then we work up to more detail. The more you look at it, the more you work on it, the more you look at it, the more you can see, and then you can paint it. If you can't see it, you can't paint it. So just keep looking at it. Just keep looking at it. This is going to have an interesting little bit of light shining through it as well. And I'm going to use that light teal with a little bit of white on it in order to get that effect. So I'm going to just pull that across here a little bit. And we might need to put a little bit of yellow in it. I'm not sure. Okay, so I do want to say one more thing. The canvas that I'm working on right here is kind of a medium to a little bit more of a coarse texture on it. And so it makes it a little more difficult to paint the illusion of glass when you've got a lot of texture, you know, a lot of bumps. So what I did over here on this one, that's an ampersand cradled panel. And so you see this, it's got a side that they've built on it, and it's built like a box. Now this is not just plain old masonite, you guys. This is one that has been designed for archival, 500-year paintings, and you can paint beautiful detail on it. And I've just been really thrilled with this particular thing. I need to get more of those. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now what do we do next? Well, I need to establish our dark little rims around here, and I'm going to actually use a little bit of the purple, the dioxazine purple, into the rim of the pitcher. Also, would you take a note as to how far this line is from this line? The back of the rim of the pitcher, look, there's only about an inch between the back rim and the front rim. So don't make the mistake of making a big wide open rim and then wondering why it looks funny. Well, you got to really take a look at it and say, well, how deep is that really? And now I'm going to continue with my little purple. I'm going to add a little bit of purple over here and see how that begins to kind of shape that out a little bit more. And stylistically, if you wanted to kind of do something a little more Gauguin or Van Gogh, you can just leave your lines on there. And that's kind of interesting too, but that's not what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to come up like this, and we're going to put in even a darker tone here, work our way back a little bit, and then I'm going to try to find where there are just a few more dark tones. And then let's go back into some of the phthalo turquoise, and we'll put in just a little more of that as we come into the jar. And I want to put just a little more. Of course, if I were really taking my time, and I would take several hours to do one of these if I really was working on it on my own. So you can take your time. So I'm going to now find where we're just going to jump to the highlights. Okay, here we go. First off, I'm going to go into a kind of a mint green color to create a little bit of a bed for my highlight right there. And then I want to do it the same over here, just a little bit of light shining through here. And then I'm going to put a little bit in the back of that just to make it look a little bit thinner. You can see how that works. So this is kind of this is our first little mixture that we made kind of for the back of this one right there, okay? I'm just scooping up some of that, and then I'm going to find where that goes. I'm going to come into the this part of the glass, and it kind of comes down into there. Wow, that's starting to look like it's transparent, doesn't it? I'm going to just pull this around like that. Now, remember, we have the light that's going to hit here, and then it's going to come out over here a little bit. So I'm going to put that there just a little bit on the inside of that nice thick glass to where it begins to look like it's kind of glowing a little bit. And we're going to put just a little bit of this greenish color into the handle. And then we'll move it around. Challenge often is trying to match the colors and the tones. Well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? Trying to match the color and the tone of various different things. And so I want to get a little more of that light color popping through there. That's going to be fun. And let's now go into our lightest color and see if we can figure out where that highlight's going to go. Okay, I'm going to pop that highlight right there. Ooh, yeah, that's it. So we'll just pop that on. I don't want it to have sharp edges. It's a round object. It doesn't have sharp edges. So I'm putting a little bit of that, and then I might even wipe my brush off and kind of fuzz out the edge of that highlight. If I fuzz it out too much, I just put it back on again, all right? So put a little more of that in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Where's the highlight? It's up here in the same direction. The light hits here. The highlight, oops, I got paint dripping off. The highlight comes on the edge right there, and then I'll shape it out. And I can shape it out by repainting stuff up underneath it. And then, but before we do that, let's find the other one. The other one is right here. And so it goes like that. A little bit of a highlight there. Isn't this exciting? Oh, I find that this type of painting is one of my most enjoyable. I just love it. So now I also have a little bit hitting on that surface right there. You can use a tiny brush if you want. And then we're going to put a little bit of a highlight right there. That's where that's hitting. And then I'm noticing, oh, here's one down here on the handle as it hits there. And so there's where some of our highlights, where I'm finding the various different surfaces that have the highlights as they come around. Let's get this one kind of tidied up a little bit. And then I have one on the outside of that right there, kind of like there. Okay, so that's kind of where that goes. And I'm going to drag this one up here on this back bottle. It's starting to bug me. I'm going to just kind of drag it down a little bit, and then I'm going to restate it one more time. So I make it, and as Helen Van Wyck used to say, make it, break it, and make it again. So there we go. I'll put that back on one more time, very carefully, nice and thick, like that. Now notice I don't put a highlight on the edge of the bottle. That just doesn't work. You want it slightly in from the edge so that it doesn't look like a paper cutout. So that's how that kind of works. Okay, hey, anybody want to watch me kind of put that little orange in? Let's try that. Okay, now before I get too far moving into the orange, I want to also come back in with just a little bit more of the cobalt teal and kind of make that not quite so messy. It's glass, for goodness sakes, you know. Okay, I'm putting a little bit of cadmium yellow with cadmium orange. And you know what I'm going to need? I need a little bit of white, because it's just going to, it's so transparent, it's just going to cause a problem. So I'm going to create this round little sphere. And if you want to really get into how to paint a sphere, go back onto one of my videos. It's called How to Paint a Sphere. Okay, and then I'm going to, now I'm going to come in with a little bit of my transparent orange. I like that. And a little bit of cadmium red. So cadmium red, transparent orange, and cadmium orange. And we're going to darken this part on this side of our little tangerine. And we're going to put that like this and just kind of create this little cute little orange like there. It's nice to have a contrast rather than just the teal glass. You want to have a little bit of a contrast. And then I'm going to add, actually, you know what I want to do first? I want to put in a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my purple. We're going to put that shadow in right there and create a nice little soft shadow. And I just kind of smashed my orange just a little bit there. That's not too bad. And then I want to also put a little bit of a shadow right here. So I'm going to use that same shadow color as we kind of enhance that shadow so that it looks like it's not just floating in space. And I'll put that kind of going around that direction and like this. And then I want to put a brighter a more thick application of that orange as we get closer to the actual orange color right there, away from the shadow. And I'll just really lather that on because I need a thick application right now. Now when you put a thick application of cadmium orange on, it's going to take you a couple weeks for it to dry. No kidding, even more than that. It'll take 6 months before it cures in some weather conditions. Okay, so there we have our little funny little orange. I want to give it a tiny little belly button down here. I think I'll put it down right about there, little belly button there. And then I'm going to add just a little more of that dark color because I don't think I like that too much. I'm going to put some red and purple. Red and purple. There, that's better. That's better, better, better. We're going to get this. It'll be awesome. And when it's done, when these are done, this painting, and I've got a couple more of the same similar subjects, I'm going to put them on my Etsy site. And so don't forget to go and check that out at nettykstudio.etsy.com. Okay, now I'm adding a little bit of yellow and white to my orange, and I'm going to put in a little bit of a lighter color right here. It's not the highlight, it's just the light. And I'm giving it a little bit of texture, and we'll see if I can pull that out a little bit this way. Some people just think, ooh, still life, that's boring. That's not at all boring to me. I just find still life is one of those therapeutic, wonderful things to kind of meditate with. And I'm just adding a little more orange here and there, and kind of creating a little bit of a little gnarly texture. I even thought about peeling one of those oranges and sticking it on there to see if it would create some texture. We should try that sometime. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll kind of make sure that your edges are not hard. We're going to go back and soften those up just a little bit. And then I'm going to put in a nice highlight onto this one as well. So we'll put a little highlight with really light white. Maybe it has a little bit of green in it. We'll see there's some little bit of blue or purple, but I think it's mostly just white. And then as we work it into it, it kind of creates this really interesting three-dimensional look about it. So that's fun. That is kind of cool. I probably got a little carried away. It needs to be backed off just a tad. Might have a little too much paint on there. Who knows? Okay, now it's really starting to come out and pop out forward, and I'm going to go back a little bit. We'll put just a bit of orange underneath there like this, and then it creates that kind of reflected light, kind of like that, and I'll put just a bit of orange into that shadow just to tone it down so it's not quite so purple. And then I'll go back one more time with maybe something that's almost, well, this is kind of a light mint. It's got a little bit of our blue color to it. One more time. I just keep building it up until I'm happy with that. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in, and you can do this with a Q-tip too. Just come in, but I can't see. Oh, here's one. Okay, so if I grab a Q-tip and then I take the little fuzzy end of the Q-tip and just kind of fuzz out the edges of that, it's going to look a little bit more like it's round and going into space rather than just a, you know, cookie cutter cutout on there. Yeah, okay, well. All right, now I'm going to just do a couple little things. I'm going to add just a little bit of a yellow color into this part just because I think it might be effective, and then a little bit right in here. And we're going to kind of tidy up some of these little lines in here. And now one more thing is that I want to put just that indication of that bottle kind of coming through right here, and then like that. And this is going to be, it's going to be darker right there. There. That has kind of a little bit of that indication of that other bottle. And then I lost my little reflection. Here, let's try to put that back in a little bit. There. Okay, well, I think that's all I'm going to do on this particular demonstration for today. I hope it helped you to kind of get over your fear of at least trying to paint translucent glass. I just love it. It's one of my very favorite things to paint. And so if you join me next time, I'm going to be doing a wonderful limoncello vase with, I think, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 lilies. I'm not really sure. Anyway, pink lilies. It's going to be really, really pretty. And so stay tuned. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. And check up on my Etsy site at nettykstudio.etsy.com, and perhaps you'll see a few of these little demonstrations or these little special studies of my teal glass made available online, and you're welcome to purchase them and have them in your own studio for a good example. Okay, I hope to see you again next time. Thanks again so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.